My daughter-in-law kept breaking into my apartment nonstop, 36 times in just 3 months. I asked her to stop. She laughed and said, "You're overreacting." So, I moved out silently. A week later, the alarm went off at 2 a.m. That's when everything changed. Can you imagine the sting of looking into your own son's eyes, the boy you raised, and realizing he's been twisted into a pawn, complicit in a scheme to destroy you? Or worse, seeing your daughter-in-law's smile, knowing it masked a chilling greed so profound, she was actively trying to make you disappear? What if the frail old man they thought they were burying was actually a retired forensic accountant ready to unleash a legal apocalypse? It all started subtly, like a slow poison. My daughter-in-law, Megan, with her cheap vanilla perfume and aggressive ambition, thought I was just some senile old man clinging to a meager pension. She had no idea she was declaring war on someone who knows exactly how to bury people with paper. One morning, the alarm system, a little secret I'd installed, tripped silently. It was 2 a.m. I knew. I walked into apartment 4B at 11:15 a.m., the door unlocked. Again. Third time that week. The air reeked of her presence. I didn't call out. I didn't panic. 40 years hunting corporate embezzlers teaches you patience. You don't interrupt a crime until you've gathered all the variables. I just closed the door with a soft click and listened. Floorboards creaked from the living room. I moved silently across the worn carpet. The bedroom door was ajar. And there she was. Megan bent over my nightstand, fingers rifling through the drawer with a frantic entitlement that made my blood run cold. She pulled out my heart medication, shook the bottle like a maraca, testing its weight. How many pills were left? She tossed it back in with a careless thud. She wasn't just looking for anything, she was looking for something specific. My will, perhaps? A hidden fortune I pretended not to have? I watched for a full minute. Watched her lift the mattress, check the pockets of my old wool coat. She moved with the confidence of someone who thought they already owned my space, my life. Are you looking for a hidden fortune, Megan? My voice was calm, level, dry. Or just checking if I've expired yet? She didn't jump. She didn't scream. Just froze for a split second. Then she turned, that condescending smile plastered on her face. "Oh, Gerald, you scared me." As if I were the intruder. "Just stopping by to make sure you hadn't fallen in the shower or forgotten to eat. You know how you get lately, confused." Confused? I looked at the open drawer, the displaced mattress. "You're checking my medication and lifting my mattress to see if I've eaten? That's a fascinating medical approach, Megan. You have a key I never gave you. This is the 36th time you've entered this apartment without permission in 90 days. She laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound that bounced off the peeling wallpaper. 36 times? Listen to yourself, Gerald. You're imagining things again. Brandon told me you were getting paranoid. I come here to help you, to clean up. This place is a dump. If you're going to be ungrateful, maybe I should just stop coming and let you rot." She brushed past me, bumping my shoulder with unnecessary force. She smelled of lies, and that cloying vanilla. At the doorway, she stopped, sweeping her eyes over me not as a father-in-law, but as a liability she was desperate to liquidate. "You should be thanking me, a man your age living alone in this neighborhood. It's irresponsible. You're losing your grip, Gerald. Everyone sees it, even Brandon." She walked out, leaving the front door wide open. She didn't care if I was safe. She wanted me to feel unsafe, exposed. I walked to the door and locked it. My hands didn't shake. My heart rate remained steady. She was trying to gaslight a man who used to find decimal point errors in billion-dollar ledgers. She thought I was losing my grip. She had no idea I was just tightening it. That evening I called Brandon. Said it was urgent. He arrived at 6 p.m., exhausted, smelling of fast food he'd eaten in his car to avoid going home to Megan. My son. The boy I'd raised to be honest, now a shadow of himself. He sat on my sagging beige sofa, refusing to meet my eyes. I placed my black notebook, a simple ledger, on the coffee table. Date, time, duration of entry, items disturbed. I told him. "Read it, Brandon." He picked it up, flipped through without reading a word. A long-suffering sigh, clearly rehearsed. "Dad, we've talked about this. Megan is just trying to help. She's worried about you. She's breaking and entering, Brandon. She's searching my drawers. She's looking for money. She told me I was imagining it, paranoid. And now you're not even reading the evidence." He dropped the notebook. It landed with a heavy thud. "It's not evidence, Dad. It's a list of your delusions. Megan tells me everything. Says you forget who she is. Says she found the stove left on last week. Says you called her by Mom's name." A cold, sharp pain shot through my chest. Not my heart condition. This was the realization that my son was gone. Replaced by this weak, apologetic creature who'd sell his own father's dignity for a quiet night with his wife. I have never left the stove on. I have never called her Catherine. You know that. You know my mind is sharp. I still do the Sunday crossword in ink, Brandon. I still balance my own checkbook down to the penny. Why are you lying for her? Brandon stood, his face flushed with anger and shame. I'm not lying. I'm trying to manage a difficult situation. You're 71 years old, Dad. You live in a rent-controlled apartment that smells like dust. You have no assets. No future. We're trying to figure out what to do with you before you hurt yourself. Megan thinks we should look into assisted living facilities, places where professionals can deal with your episodes. Episodes. The word hung in the air like toxic smoke. They were building a narrative. A legal case for incompetence. If they could prove I was senile, they could take power of attorney. Control the little money they thought I had. I stood and looked him dead in the eye. He flinched. I am not going to a home, Brandon. And I am not having episodes. Your wife is a thief and a liar, and you are letting her do it because you are too weak to stand up to her. He grabbed his jacket. I'm done listening to this. If you keep attacking Megan, we're going to have to take legal steps to protect you from yourself. We're doing this for your own good, Gerald. Don't make it ugly. He walked out. Slammed the door. I stood in the silence, looking at the notebook. They thought I was helpless prey. I walked to the window, watched Brandon get into his car, head on the steering wheel for a moment. Pity flickered. I crushed it. Pity gets you killed. Pity obscures the numbers. And right now, the numbers didn't add up to a happy family reunion. They added up to war. The next morning, the air felt heavy. I woke with the instinct of a man whose perimeter has been breached. Coffee black. Toast dry. I sat at my desk, a folding card table in the corner. My decoy files were there. Pension plan, medical records, arranged in a specific geometric pattern. One edge of the blue folder, perfectly aligned with the table corner, was off by half an inch. Megan had been back. In the night. Or early morning. I'd slept through it. That terrified me more than anything. Nothing was missing from the papers. They were boring anyway. But then I looked at the small cedar box on the shelf above. The only thing of true value, Catherine's pocket watch. Broken since she died 5 years ago. Tarnished silver. Worthless to anyone else. To me, it was an anchor. I opened the box. Empty. The rage that filled me wasn't hot. It was absolute zero. The cold clarity of a judge passing a death sentence. She hadn't taken it to sell, it wasn't worth $20. She took it to hurt me. To make me frantic, to make me prove to Brandon I was losing things. I took out my phone. My fingers flew. Return the watch, Megan. Now. 3 minutes later. What watch, Dad? You're spiraling. We never saw a watch. Maybe you threw it out with the trash like you did your mail last week. Check the dumpster. She was taunting me. Enjoying this. She thought she was the cat, playing with a dying mouse. She thought I'd run to the dumpster, call Brandon screaming. She thought I'd break. I didn't reply. I put the phone down. Walked to the bookshelf. Nestled between a 1998 tax code and a dusty encyclopedia was a small black device. Looked like a screw. High definition, wide-angle camera, motion-activated, night vision. I'd installed it after the 5th break-in. Never checked it. I wanted enough for a criminal conviction, not just a family argument. Today was the day. I opened my laptop, engaged the encryption. Pulled up the feed. Timestamp, 3:14 a.m. The door opened. Megan slipped inside, in black, trying to look like a shadow. She went straight to the desk, flipped through the blue folder. Then she took the watch from the cedar box. Held it to the moonlight. Smiled. A cruel twist of her lips. Slipped it into her pocket. But she didn't leave. She pulled out her phone, flashlight app on. Opened the desk drawer where I kept my real bank statements, the small checking account. She didn't steal them. She laid them out. Photographed every single page. My social security card. My driver's license. The deed to the burial plot next to Catherine. I froze the frame. Her face, illuminated by the screen, looked hungry. She wasn't just gaslighting me anymore. She wasn't just trying to put me in a home. She was stealing my identity. Building a profile to seize control of every asset I had, the moment I was declared incompetent. I leaned back. The anger settled into a hard knot. They wanted to play games. Treat me like a senile fool. Strip me of my history, my dignity. I looked at the screen one last time, saved the video to an external drive, to a cloud server, then a second cloud server. You want the watch, Megan? I whispered to the empty room. Keep it, Because you just gave me something much more valuable. A motive. Evidence. And permission to stop acting like a father, and start acting like the man who brought down the Enron subsidiaries. I closed the laptop. Didn't call Brandon. Didn't text Megan. I went to the closet, pulled out my charcoal gray suit, the one I hadn't worn in 5 years. Brushed the dust off. Put on a crisp white shirt. Tied my tie with a perfect Windsor knot. I looked in the mirror. The tired old man was gone. Gerald Ollie was back. It was time to visit Beatrice. Time to open the gates of hell. The glass doors of the Sterling and Kowalski building reflected a man I hadn't seen in a long time. The suit fit a little looser, but the posture was the same. I walked past security, a gaze that dared them to ask for ID. I didn't stop at reception on the 40th floor. The young man behind the marble counter started to rise, mouth opening to ask for an appointment. I simply held up a hand and kept walking toward the corner office. "Tell Miss Kowalski the auditor is here," I said. I knew he wouldn't make the call in time. I opened the heavy oak doors without knocking. Beatrice Kowalski, 60 years old with a reputation that made CEOs weep, was by the window, sipping from a crystal tumbler. She didn't turn immediately. "Jerry." She said my name like it was a ghost story. "I heard you retired. Heard you were living the simple life in a walk-up, feeding pigeons." I closed the door, locked it. The click echoed. I was trying to be. But retirement doesn't agree with my family. I sat in the leather chair, placed a flash drive on her polished mahogany desk. "Is that financial or personal?" she asked. "It's criminal," I said. She plugged it in. I watched her face as the footage played. She saw the timestamp, the unauthorized entry, the watch theft. Then she leaned forward, her professional mask slipping. She saw Megan photographing my documents. "She's not just stealing trinkets, Jerry. That's identity theft. Elder abuse. She's preparing to liquidate you." I nodded. "She thinks I'm senile. Wants power of attorney. Wants to put me in a home." Beatrice slammed her glass down. "We can file a restraining order today. Sue her for civil damages. A sheriff at her door by sunset. We can crush her financially." I shook my head. "No. A restraining order is a piece of paper. A civil suit is a negotiation. She'll play the victim. Cry to Brandon. Get a slap on the wrist. I'll spend my life looking over my shoulder." I walked to the window. "You know what I used to do, Beatrice. You know who I am." She smiled. A cold, terrifying smile. "You're the man who took down the Cartwright Ponzi scheme with nothing but their own expense reports. The forensic accountant who found the money the FBI missed." "Exactly. I don't want to sue her. I want to catch her. Build a case so airtight she won't be able to breathe. I want felony charges. Prison time. I want her to understand she broke into the wrong house." Beatrice tapped her fingers. "If you want criminal charges, you need more than this video. A good defense lawyer could argue implied consent, that she was checking your finances to help. We need intent. We need to prove she intended to steal substantial assets. Malice." I walked back, lowered my voice. "That's why I'm here. I'm not living in that apartment because I have to. You know I own the building. You set up the shell company for me 15 years ago." She nodded. "Ollie Holdings. You own the whole block." "I do. But Megan doesn't know that. Brandon doesn't know that. They think I'm a tenant. I'm moving out, upstairs to the penthouse. But I'm leaving the apartment exactly as it is. And I'm changing the legal designation of Unit 4B. Her eyebrow raised. "To what?" "From a residential unit to a private document storage facility for Ollie Holdings. Draw up the paperwork today. Post signs inside, visible only once you enter. Restricted access, federal records. I want to bait the trap." I explained the plan, the safe, the planted rumors of cash. Beatrice listened, her eyes lighting up. If Megan broke into a home to check on an old man, it was a domestic dispute. If she broke into a commercial storage facility to drill into a safe after being denied access, it was grand larceny, corporate espionage. A federal offense. "You are a cruel man, Jerry," Beatrice said softly. "I am a father who just realized he raised a coward and married him off to a predator," I replied. "I've spent my life finding truth in numbers. The numbers tell me my family is insolvent, morally and financially. I'm just closing the account." Beatrice opened her laptop. "I'll draft the lease. Effective tomorrow. Notify the precinct. If she breaks in after you vacate, she's not visiting Grandpa. She's robbing a vault." I watched her work. A cold satisfaction settled over me. This was familiar territory. Not the messy emotional chaos of family arguments. This was law. Cause and effect. A balance sheet. Megan had created a debt I was about to collect. What about Brandon? She asked, looking up. He's your son. If he's with her when she goes down, he goes down too. My jaw twitched. I thought of him on my couch, refusing to look at the evidence. Telling me I was having episodes. Choosing the path of least resistance. I gave him a chance. I showed him the book. I told him the truth. He chose her. If he stands by the fire, he's going to get burned. I can't save someone who refuses to grab the rope. Beatrice nodded. One more thing, I said. I need a team. Police ready? Caught in the act. Handcuffs on their wrists before they leave the room. Beatrice picked up her phone. I'll call Captain George. He owes me a favor. He hates thieves who prey on the elderly. He'll appreciate the irony. She paused. You realize, once we do this, there's no going back. You're sending your daughter-in-law to prison. Destroying your son's marriage. You'll be alone. I stood, buttoning my jacket. I looked at my reflection. The old man Megan saw. But beneath that, the shark. I've been alone since Catherine died, B. I just didn't realize it until I saw Megan weighing my heart medication. I'm not destroying a family. I'm removing a tumor. I walked to the door. Get the papers ready. I'm moving out tomorrow morning. And Beatrice. I turned. Make sure the lease specifies highly confidential tax records. Let's make sure the charge carries a mandatory minimum sentence. Beatrice smiled. Consider it done. Welcome back to the game, Jerry. I walked out. The air felt cooler. My heart beat with a steady thud. Not sad. Not confused. Operational. I had a target. A plan. And tomorrow morning, I'd set the stage. Megan wanted my money. My legacy. She was about to find out exactly what that legacy was worth. The next afternoon, the apartment felt stale. I didn't take off my coat. Didn't loosen my tie. I wasn't staying. I was here to perform. I poured a glass of water, looked out at the brick wall. This had to be perfect. Loud enough to be heard, private enough to sound like a secret. I knew she was there, probably in the hallway, ear pressed to the wood, or in the vacant unit across the hall, her listening post. She was a creature of habit. Today, I'd give her something better than a death certificate. I'd give her a reason to risk everything. I pulled out my phone, dialed the automated weather service. Neutral background noise. Held it to my ear, walked into the living room, near the front door. I let the old man slide over me. Hunched my shoulders. A tremor in my hand. I became the paranoid, confused geriatric she wanted. Listen to me, Mr. Henderson. I said loudly, my voice a quaver of frustration. I don't care about early withdrawal penalties. I don't care about FDIC insurance. I'm done with banks. I saw the news. The economy is crashing and I am not going to let you people freeze my assets. I paused, letting the imaginary banker protest. I paced, letting my shoes scuff. I wanted her to hear the anxiety. No! I shouted. No, you listen! I want to close the high-yield savings account. Yes, the one from 1998. I want it all in cash. Don't look at me like that. I know how much is in there. $500,000. I let the number hang in the air. $500,000. Enough to induce madness. Plausible for a man who'd worked 40 years. I walked closer to the door, imagining her ear on the other side. I want it ready by tomorrow morning. I'm moving the safe to the apartment tonight. Yes, the big steel one. I'm going to keep it right here where I can see it. I don't trust you. I don't trust the government. I'm taking my money and I'm guarding it myself. The weather report droned. Partly cloudy with a chance of rain. Fitting. A storm was coming. I'll be there at 9 sharp. Have the bills in hundreds. And don't call my son. This is my money. He doesn't need to know. He's weak. His wife would spend it on shoes. This is my retirement. My safety net. I hung up, threw the phone onto the sofa. I stood, panting slightly, not from exertion, but from the adrenaline of the lie. The bait was in the water. I pulled out my laptop, opened the secure feed from the camera in the hallway light fixture. Fisheye lens. Distorted but clear. There she was. Megan. Pressed against the wall next to my door. Not even trying to hide. Head tilted, eyes wide, unblinking. Like a junkie who'd found a bag of heroin. Her chest heaved. I could see the greed washing over her. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying. Texting Brandon. He has $500,000 in cash. He's bringing it here. We have to get it. She looked at my door one last time. Her hand hovered over the knob. For a second, I thought she might break in right then. I tensed, ready to ruin the plan if necessary. But she pulled her hand back. Greedy, but not stupid. She knew she couldn't take a safe that wasn't there yet. She had to wait for the money. She turned and ran down the hallway. Energized. Motivated. She wasn't just checking on a senile old man. She was planning a heist. I closed the laptop. Nausea. It was one thing to suspect family was mercenary. Another to watch them salivate over your imaginary fortune, like wolves circling a wounded deer. She hadn't hesitated. Hadn't worried about my safety. Only the payday. I packed the last few items: toothbrush, Catherine's photo, the notebook of her crimes. The apartment was stripped bare, cold, like a storage unit. I looked at the spot where the safe would go. The heavy bolts sat on the table. The drill charged. Tomorrow, movers would bring the beast up. I'd bolt it down, fill it with dummy files, and disappear upstairs. I checked the camera feed again. Hallway empty. But I knew she was out there. Screaming at Brandon. Calculating how to spend the money before she stole it. I put on my coat. Picked up my suitcase. Unlocked the door. Stepped out, locked it behind me. The deadbolt clicked, final. I didn't take the elevator. I walked up. 1 flight, 210. I needed the burn in my legs. I needed to remember I was strong. By the 40th floor, I was breathing hard, but felt clean. Keyed into the private elevator lobby of the penthouse. Doors slid open to marble, glass, silence. I walked to the windows. The city looked like a circuit board. Orderly. Logical. Controllable. I went to the command center I'd set up. Monitors glowing. Screen 1, hallway of 4B. Empty. Screen 2, interior of 4B. Safe brooding. I was. The eye in the sky. Waiting. I pulled out my phone. Time to sever the last tie. To give them the green light. I composed a text to Brandon. Short. Pathetic. Brandon, I cannot stay here anymore. This city is too loud. I am moving to the country to live with Aunt Sally. Do not come looking for me. I need to be alone with my thoughts. The apartment is empty. I left the key inside. I hit send. Aunt Sally. My mother's sister. Died in 1999. Brandon was 12 at the funeral. If he cared, if he knew anything about my life, he'd know she was dead. He'd know I was either lying or having a complete mental breakdown. He'd call the police, hospitals. He'd panic. I watched the phone. 1 minute. 2. The reply came. Okay, Dad. Whatever you want. Stay safe. He didn't remember. Or he didn't care. He just saw an open door. An obstacle removing itself. I put the phone down. The notification vibration had barely ceased when I saw movement on monitor 1. 9 a.m. The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor. Megan stepped out. Running. In workout clothes, hoodie up. She looked over her shoulder. Looked at my door. Brandon stumbled out behind her, pale, sick. She had the text. She thought the apartment was empty. The money waiting. I leaned forward, 40 floors above them. Took a sip of espresso. Go ahead, Megan, I whispered. Knock. She didn't knock. She pulled out a key. A key she shouldn't have. A copy of a copy. Jammed it in. Twisted. It didn't turn. I changed the cylinder 3 hours ago. Her face contorted. She rattled the handle. Kicked the door. Turned to Brandon, screaming something I couldn't hear but could read. He changed the locks. He changed the damn locks. Brandon put his hands on his head. He wanted to leave. But Megan wasn't leaving. She pulled out her phone. Not texting me. Looking for a locksmith. I sat back. First pawn moved. Night blocked. Now she'd have to get creative. Break the law in a way that couldn't be explained away as a family wellness check. I watched her pace like a caged tiger. Watched my son lean against the wall, defeated by his own apathy. Welcome to the penthouse view, Brandon, I whispered. It's a long way down. I sat in the silence that money bought, insulated from the desperate scratching below. On the monitor, Megan vibrated with rage. The key that had failed to turn was still in her hand. She stared at the lock I'd installed, a Mako Maxim deadbolt, drill and pick resistant. It said no. She turned to Brandon. I zoomed in, hearing her spittle. Do something, Brandon! Break it down! Kick it in! He looked tired. I can't kick it in, Megan. It's solid. Dad must have reinforced it. Her laugh scraped against the microphone. Security? He's a paranoid old bat. He probably forgot how to use a key. He's probably in there right now counting his pills and drooling. She hammered her fist. Gerald, open this door. It's Megan! We know you're in there! Silence. The apartment was empty. The safe silently broadcasting its location. She rattled the handle again, throwing her weight against the door. Didn't budge. He said he left the key inside, she hissed. He texted you. Why would he change the lock if he was leaving? Brandon slid down the wall. Maybe he took the money with him, Megan. Maybe there is no money. Maybe he just snapped. Megan loomed over him. I zoomed the camera. No love in her eyes, just calculation. $70,000 in credit card debt, Brandon. They're going to repossess the car. We're 3 months behind on rent. If we don't get that money, we're on the street. Your father owes us this. He's been hoarding wealth while we starve. It's not burglary. It's an advance on your inheritance. I sipped my coffee. Work himself to death. Brandon worked 20 hours a week as a freelance consultant, mostly playing video games, waiting for my wire transfers. But in her narrative, they were victims. Brandon shook his head weakly. He's not dead, Megan. There is no inheritance yet. Megan stood, smoothing her tracksuit. He might as well be. He abandoned this place. Possession is 9/10 of the law. If we get inside and find the cash, it's ours. No one knows it exists. He told the bank not to call you. He hid it from the government. It's untraceable. Brandon, it's a ghost pile, and we are going to take it. She pulled out her phone again. I called a locksmith an hour ago. He said he wouldn't touch it without proof of ownership. Coward. She paced. 3 steps one way, 3 steps back. A tiger looking for a weakness. Nothing. We need tools, she said suddenly. A crowbar, a heavy one. Bolt cutters. Maybe a drill. We come back at night. When the building is quiet. Brandon looked terrified. Megan, no! That's breaking and entering. That's a felony. If we don't get that money, my life is over, she shrieked. For a second, I saw the fear beneath the greed. She grabbed Brandon, shoved him against the wall. You are going to help me. You are going to drive me to the hardware store. You are going to buy the tools. And tonight you are going to stand watch while I get what belongs to us. Or so help me God, Brandon, I will leave you. I will walk away and leave you with the debt and the shame, and you will never see me again. I watched my son weigh his morality against his fear of loneliness. His father against his wife. No contest. His shoulders sagged. Okay, he whispered. Okay, we'll go to the store. Megan patted his cheek. Ownership, not affection. Good boy. Now let's go. We have work to do. She marched to the elevator. Brandon lingered, looked at my door, touched the wood gently. I'm sorry, Dad, he whispered. Then he followed her. I sat in the silence, a profound hollowness in my chest. He apologized. Knew it was wrong. And did it anyway. He was sorry, but he was going to bring the crowbar. I switched the monitor to the interior of 4B. The safe sat in the gloom, its red GPS light blinking like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. It was waiting. The bait was set. The trap primed. They were buying the instruments of their own destruction. I called Beatrice. They just left. Going to buy tools. Coming back tonight. Tell the captain to have his team ready by 2 a.m. Is Brandon with her? She asked. Yes. He's driving the car. A pause. I'm sorry, Jerry. Don't be. He just signed his resignation letter from the family. Let's make sure the severance package is delivered promptly. I hung up. The sun dipped. I sat in the dark, a sentinel. At 5:45, Megan played her last card before violence. Not with a crowbar, but a locksmith. Greasy coveralls, 1-star reviews. Perfect for Megan. I watched them argue. She gestured wildly. My father is sick, locked himself in. We lost the key. The locksmith looked bored. He knelt, examined the Mako Maxim deadbolt. He took one look at the keyway, ran his thumb over the hardened steel. Stood up. Shook his head. Cannot do it. Megan pulled a wad of cash, probably my money from an ATM using their last credit limit. Tried to shove it in his pocket. He backed away. Pointed at the camera in the light fixture. Not stupid. He knew a commercial-grade security setup. Breaking into Fort Knox wasn't worth $500. He picked up his bag, left Megan standing with a fistful of cash, her face twisted in impotent rage. She kicked the door. Turned to Brandon, screaming. They got into the elevator. The diplomatic phase was over. Now brute force. 2 hours later they returned. Not empty-handed. I watched them wrestle along, heavy package out of the elevator. Wrapped in brown paper, but the shape was unmistakable. A 36-inch wrecking bar. Brandon carried bolt cutters. They looked heavy in his hands, like a child playing soldier with real weapons. They didn't go to the door immediately. They went into the vacant unit across the hall, their staging ground. They'd wait. Until the building slept. Until the doorman was on his break. Until they thought the world wasn't watching. I picked up the phone. Dialed a private number. It rang twice. "Chief," I said. "Gerald. George Miller, Chief of Police. We played poker for 10 years. Haven't heard from you in a year. Everything all right?" "No, George. But it's about to be." I told him everything. No dressing it up. Facts. The break-ins. Identity theft. The safe. The trap. In a few hours, 2 suspects would attempt forcible entry into a secure corporate archive. George listened. Didn't interrupt. "Your own son, Jerry?" he asked heavily. "My own son. He's driving the getaway car. He's holding the bolt cutters." I heard the scratch of a match, the exhale of smoke. George was thinking. "If I send a team, Jerry, we're talking felony charges. Armed burglary if they have a crowbar. Once the cuffs go on, I can't take them off. The DA will eat this up. It's a slam dunk." I looked at Brandon on the screen. Lost. But there. He'd made his choice. "I won't get cold feet, George. I want them caught in the act. Inside the unit. Her hand on the safe. I want the charges to stick so hard she'll need a chisel to get them off." "All right," George said. "Tactical unit. No sirens. Silent. Secure the perimeter at 1 a.m. When do you think they'll move?" 2 a.m. That's when the night shift doorman takes his lunch break. She knows the schedule. She watches everything. 2 a.m. it is. I'll be there personally, Jerry. I want to see this." "Thank you, George. Don't thank me. You're doing the hard part. I'm just taking out the trash." He hung up. The sun was gone. The city a grid of electric light. I felt detached, watching a train wreck in slow motion. I'd laid the tracks, built the engine, but they were shoveling the coal. I watched the screen for hours. They sat in the dark, ate gas station sandwiches, argued in whispers. Megan paced, agitated, checking her watch. Fueled by adrenaline and avarice. Spending that $500,000 in her head. She didn't know the only thing she'd find was a mirror. At 1:30 a.m., 2 unmarked vans pulled up. Men in dark uniforms. George's team. Moving like shadows. Entering the stairwell. Moving into position. My heart beat a little faster. Not from fear. From finality. This was it. I switched the audio feed on. I wanted to hear them. Hear the justification. Megan stood up, picked up the crowbar. "Wait it. It's time," she whispered. Brandon stood, bolt cutters in hand. He looked sick. "Megan," he said. "We can still go. We can just leave." She turned on him, eyes like black holes in the night vision. "And go where, Brandon? To the shelter? Bankruptcy court? No. We are going into that room. We are getting that money. And tomorrow, we are going to be rich. Now move." She pushed him. I sat back. "Come on in, Megan," I said to the empty room. "The bank is open." The digital clock on my wall flipped to 2 o'clock. The hour of the wolf. The door to the vacant unit across the hall opened slowly. Not stealthy. The heavy, reluctant push of a man walking toward a cliff. Megan stepped out first, black gloves, wrecking bar. Jerky, frantic energy. Head snapping left, right. No one. Just the silent lens of my camera. Brandon followed, bolt cutters clutched to his chest. Sweating. He looked at the camera. For a second, our eyes met across the digital divide. He didn't see me, but I saw him. The child I taught to ride a bike. The boy who cried when his goldfish died. Now, a man about to commit a felony because he was too terrified to say no to his wife. They reached my door. Megan jammed the wrecking bar into the gap. A sharp metallic bite. The wood groaned. The high-pitched sound of structural failure. The Mako lock wouldn't pick or drill, but it was only as strong as the wood. She wasn't attacking the lock, she was attacking the architecture. She grunted, pulled. Crack. The door frame splintered. Trim flew. The deadbolt held, but the wood tore away. The door popped open, shuddering. They froze. Stood in the doorway, breathing hard, waiting for a shout, a siren. Silence. The apartment, a black mouth. "Go!" Megan hissed. They stepped across the threshold. Instantly, a red banner flashed across my monitor, silent alarm activated. Priority 1. Dispatch notified. No siren in the apartment. That was the beauty of a commercial-grade silent alarm. It gave them a false sense of security, let them get deep inside, comfortable. Ensured that when the police arrived, they'd be in the center of the crime scene, holding the evidence. I switched to the living room interior. Infrared sensors painted the room in shades of gray and white. Flashlight beams cut through the gloom. "Where's the furniture?" Brandon whispered, trembling. "It's empty, Megan." "He moved out." "He didn't move out," Megan snapped. Her beams slashed across the room. "He's hiding. He's playing games. Look for the—" Her light hit the center of the room. It stopped. Illuminated the safe. Black, imposing. A monolith of steel and secrets. Immovable. Containing the wealth of nations. Megan let out a sound, half gasp, half moan. The sound of an addict finding a vein. She ran to it. Dropped the crowbar with a clang. Fell to her knees, running gloved hands over the cold metal. "Jackpot," she whispered, voice trembling with manic euphoria. "It's here. It's really here. $500,000. Brandon approached slowly, his flashlight beam wavering. It swept over the safe's front, illuminating the bright red laminated sign I'd taped there hours ago. Warning. Restricted access. Federal tax records. Property of Ollie Holdings Archives. "Megan." Brandon's voice was tight with fear. "Look at the sign. It says Federal Records. Ollie Holdings. This isn't Dad's personal safe." She ripped the sign off, tore it in half. "Decoys," she spat. "It's a trick. He wants us to think it's official so we don't touch it. It's just a scarecrow. The money is inside. I know it. I can feel it." She grabbed the handle. Yanked it. Locked. "Of course. Give me the drill." Brandon didn't move. He was shining his light around the room now, seeing the other signs. No trespassing. Authorized personnel only. "This feels wrong, Megan. Why is the apartment empty? Why are there signs? This is a setup. We need to leave." Megan stood, turned the flashlight on him, blinding him. "We are not leaving. We are drilling this lock. We are taking that money, and we are going to live the life we deserve. Give me the damn drill." Brandon lowered his head. Reached into his bag, pulled out a heavy-duty cordless drill. Handed it to her. Megan turned back to the safe. The whine of the drill motor filled the room. A high-pitched mechanical scream drowning out reason. She pressed the bit against the steel. Leaned her weight into it. Sparks flew. I watched from my tower, sipping my drink. She was drilling into a decoy safe in a room she'd broken into, police silently surrounding the building. She thought she was minutes from being rich. She was minutes from being an inmate. She pushed harder. Her face twisted in pure greed. Not human. A creature consumed by hunger. She didn't hear the elevator doors opening down the hall. Didn't hear the soft tread of tactical boots. Only the drill. Only the money. She was so close. She thought she was winning. I checked the hallway monitor. 6 men in body armor stacking up outside the door. One with a battering ram. George at the back, weapon drawn but pointed down. They waited. For the signal. Or perhaps just enjoying the show. Megan stopped drilling. Wiped sweat from her forehead. "Almost there," she panted. "I can feel it giving." She rubbed the drill again. A crescendo of entitlement and stupidity. I leaned forward, pressed the button on my console that controlled the lights in 4B. Time to bring them into the light. The lights didn't flicker on. They slammed on. High-intensity halogen work lights, wired to my penthouse switch. 1 second, the room was a cave, illuminated by Megan's flashlight. The next, brighter than a surgical theater. Megan screamed. A sharp intake of breath, then a shriek as her pupils contracted. She dropped the drill. It clattered against the safe, spun across the floor. She threw her hands up, stumbled back. Brandon didn't scream. He froze. Like a deer in headlights. Mouth open, hands clutching the now useless flashlight. Then came the sound. "Police! Get on the ground! Now!" Amplified, booming. Not a request. A command that vibrated in the chest. The splintered door was kicked wide, hitting the wall. 6 figures in black tactical gear poured in. Terrifying, synchronized aggression. Weapons raised. Voices shouting. "Hands! Let me see your hands! Drop the weapon!" Megan was still holding the crowbar, forgotten. To the officers, she wasn't a daughter-in-law. She was a suspect, armed with a 36-inch steel bar, standing over a drilled safe in a commercial archive. "Drop it or we will fire!" A red laser dot appeared on her chest. She looked down. Dropped the crowbar. Raised her hands slowly, her face a mask of absolute terror. "On your knees! Cross your ankles! Do not move!" 2 officers on her in a second. Kicked her legs out. She hit the floor hard, face against the dust. A knee pressed into her back. Arms wrenched behind her. Zip ties zipping tight. "You're hurting me," Megan wailed, muffled. "I didn't do anything. This is my father-in-law's apartment. He gave me a key." "Liar," I whispered from my tower. Brandon had collapsed. Hands laced behind his head, shaking. "Don't shoot. Please don't shoot," he sobbed. "I didn't want to do it. She made me. It was her idea." "Shut up, Brandon," Megan screamed, twisting her head. "Shut up." 2 more officers hauled Brandon up. Limp dead weight. Pushed him against the wall, patted him down. Wallet, keys, phone emptied onto the floor. "Clear. Room secure." Chief George walked in, trench coat, a look of weary disgust. He stepped over the crowbar, looked at the drill, at the torn signs. Well, he said, his voice calm, but carrying effortlessly over Megan's sobbing. "What do we have here? Breaking and entering, possession of burglary tools, attempted grand larceny, and judging by the signage you destroyed, tampering with federal records. That's a nice bonus." He looked down at Megan. "Megan Ollie, you have the right to remain silent." "I am not a criminal," she shrieked, thrashing. "This is a mistake. My father-in-law is senile. He forgot he moved. We were just checking on his property." "Checking on his property with a drill and a crowbar at 2 a.m.? George asked, eyebrow raised. "That's a new one." "It's his money," she yelled. "He has cash in there. $500,000. He stole it from us. It's our inheritance." George leaned down. "It isn't your inheritance, honey. It's evidence. And right now you are not an heir. You are a perpetrator." He nodded to his men. "Get them up. Take them to the cars. Separate them." They hauled Megan to her feet. Disheveled, expensive tracksuit torn, hair wild. She looked at Brandon, weeping openly. "You coward!" she screamed. Tell them he called us. Tell them." Brandon looked at her. For the first time in his life, not with adoration or fear. With hatred. "He didn't call us, Megan. He texted me to say goodbye. You brought the drill. You broke the door. I told you we should leave. You useless, pathetic." Her words were cut off as an officer shoved her toward the door. She struggled, fighting like a trapped animal. Not for freedom, but because she couldn't accept she'd lost. "Get her out of here," George ordered. They dragged her into the hallway. Her screams echoed. "I'll sue you. You don't know who I am." They knew exactly who she was. Nobody. Brandon was led out next. He didn't fight. Head down, shoulders slumped. Broken. Like a man waking from a long dream into a nightmare. As he passed the camera, he looked up, stopped. Stared into the lens. "Dad," he whispered. The officer pushed him forward. "Keep moving, son." The room was empty now, save the police. George stood in the center, looking at the shattered door frame, the drill bit in the safe, the camera. He nodded once. "Clear." I turned off the monitor in the penthouse. Sat in silence. My hands were steady, but my heart felt heavy. It was done. The trap sprung. The wolves caged. I stood, walked to the private elevator. My reflection, tie straight, suit crisp. Not a victim. A CO. I pressed the button for the lobby. The elevator descended smoothly. I was going down to meet them. To deliver the final blow. Megan thought she was being arrested for burglary, that she could talk her way out of it. She didn't know about the shell company. The federal archives. She didn't know the man walking out of the elevator to meet her wasn't her father-in-law. He was the prosecution. The lobby of Sterling Heights was a theater of blue and red strobe lights. Police radios chattered. Tenants from lower floors, in bathrobes, whispered and pointed. Megan was still struggling, shouting about lawsuits. Her hair matted with dust, tracksuit torn. She looked exactly what she was, a criminal caught in the act. Brandon walked behind her, weeping silently, marching to the gallows. I timed it perfectly. The private elevator hummed, the light turned white. Doors slid open with a smooth, expensive hush. I stepped out. Not the stained cardigan. The charcoal suit. Starched white shirt. Deep crimson silk tie. I stood tall, a leather portfolio in one hand, a glass of scotch in the other. I looked like the man who signed the checks. The man who owned the concrete under their feet. The silence rippled through the lobby. Tenants stopped whispering. Officers straightened. Megan saw me. She stopped fighting. Her eyes went wide, trying to reconcile the confused old pensioner with the titan standing across the marble. "Gerald!" she gasped, voice raspy. "Gerald, tell them! Tell them who I am! Tell them this is a mistake! Tell them you gave me permission!" She lunged, dragging the officer. Dad! Brandon looked up, face streaked with tears. Dad, please help us! I didn't move towards them. I walked slowly to the center of the room. My shoes clicked. Sharp, authoritative. I stopped 5 feet away. Took a sip of my drink. Looked at Megan with the clinical detachment of an auditor examining a fraudulent ledger. Permission, I said. The word hung in the air. My voice deep, steady, devoid of the tremor I'd faked. You're claiming I gave you permission to use a wrecking bar on a reinforced door at 2 a.m.? You're claiming I gave you permission to drill into a safe marked federal records? Megan flinched. She heard the change in my voice. Saw the clarity in my eyes. The fog of senility was gone. You're okay, she stammered. You aren't confused. I smiled. The smile of a shark tasting blood. I have never been confused, Megan. I have been patient. There is a difference. Chief George walked over, holstered his weapon. Nodded respectfully. Mr. Ali, we secured the suspects inside the archives room. They had breached the outer door and were attempting to breach the containment unit. Tools and evidence. Video feed you provided. Clean catch. Megan looked between us, her brain misfiring. Mr. O'Malley? She whispered. Why is he calling you that? You're just a tenant. You live in 4B. You're nobody. I handed my glass to a passing officer. Stepped closer. I do not live in 4B, Megan. I staged 4B. I live in the penthouse. I've lived there for 15 years. I gestured around the lobby. I do not pay rent here. I collect it. I am the chairman of Ali Holdings. I own this building. I own the building next door. I own the commercial park where your husband used to pretend to work. Brandon made a sound like a dying animal. He fell to his knees again, dragging the officers down. You own it? He choked out. You have money? Millions? And you let us live like this? You let us struggle? I looked down at my son. Disappointment, a cold stone in my gut. I let you live like a man, Brandon. I gave you an education. A debt-free start. The opportunity to build your own life. Instead, you married a woman who measures love in credit limits, and decided it was easier to steal from your father than to work for a living. I turned back to Megan. She was shaking her head. No, this is a trick. This is another one of your delusions. You are poor. You are old. You can't be this. I pulled a document from my portfolio. Beatrice's fresh court order, federal seal. This is not a delusion, Megan. This is a federal complaint. When you broke into Unit 4B, you didn't break into a private residence. You broke into a designated corporate archive facility housing sensitive financial data and federal tax records. I held the paper up. That makes this corporate espionage. Aggravated identity theft. A federal crime with a mandatory minimum sentence that will ensure you are an old woman by the time you see the outside of a cell. Megan read the paper. Her face went gray. Arrogance drained, leaving hollow terror. But we are family, she whispered. You can't send family to federal prison. I leaned in close. You stopped being family the moment you rifled through my medicine cabinet to see when I would die. You stopped being family when you told my son to put me in a home so you could buy a new car. Tonight you are just an intruder. And I am just the man pressing charges. I looked at George. Take them away, Chief. I have a meeting with my lawyers in the morning to discuss the eviction of their cats. Wait. Megan screamed, as they hauled her backward. Wait, Gerald. Dad, I'm sorry. We can fix this. I'll sign anything. Don't do this. Her screams were loud, piercing, useless. They dragged her through the doors. The cold night air rushed in. Blue lights washed over her face before they shoved her into the cruiser. Brandon didn't scream. He just looked at me through the glass. At the suit. The elevator. The father he had underestimated. He mouthed one word. Why? I didn't answer. He knew why. The cars pulled away. Sirens fading. The lobby was quiet. Tenants staring. I turned to the night concierge. Henry, I said. Yes, Mr. Ali. He stammered. Have a cleaning crew sent to Unit 4B immediately. I want the door replaced. And send a bottle of the 18-year-old single malt up to the penthouse. I am celebrating. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. I walked back to the private elevator. Pressed the button. The doors slid open. I stepped inside, turned to face the lobby one last time. I was alone. Wealthy. Powerful. And I had just cut the cancer out of my life. The doors closed. The elevator rose. I loosened my tie. It was done. The legal trap shut tight. Now paperwork. Now, the final dismantling of their lives. But for tonight, I'd sit on my balcony, watch the city lights, and listen to the beautiful sound of absolutely nothing. 3 weeks later, in a small conference room, the plea negotiation. Megan in an orange jumpsuit, pale, shocked. Beatrice beside me, like an executioner sharpening an axe. The DA laid out the options. Door number 1, trial, video evidence, mandatory 10 years federal. Door number 2, Beatrice's offer. Brutal. Comprehensive. Designed to erase her from my life completely. Guilty plea to a lesser charge, 18 months in state facility, 5 years probation. But conditions, divorce papers signed immediately. No alimony, no marital assets. Parental rights to hypothetical grandchildren waived. Most importantly, a restraining order covering all of Illinois. Once released, 24 hours to cross the state line, never come back. Megan cried. Begged. Looked at Brandon, a ghost in the corner. He didn't look up. He'd already signed his own agreement. Megan signed. Her hand shook so hard the pen tore through the paper. As the bailiffs led her away, she looked back. No hate. Just the empty realization she'd gambled everything on a pair of deuces and lost to a royal flush. Brandon waited until she was gone. Walked to the table. Didn't ask for money. Didn't ask for forgiveness. Just asked what happened next. I handed him a bus ticket and a laminated card. I bought a construction company in North Dakota, Brandon. Hard work. Honest work. Minimum wage. He took the ticket. Fargo. You start on Monday, I said. Crew bunkhouse. 12 hours a day. You'll learn what it feels like to earn $1. If you stick it out for a year, if you show me you can build something instead of just taking it, we'll talk. Until then, you're on your own. Brandon nodded. Put the ticket in his pocket. Looked at me. For the first time in years, a flicker of the boy I used to know. Thank you, Dad, he whispered. He walked out. Didn't look back. Long bus ride ahead. Longer road to redemption. I walked out of the courthouse alone. Crisp air. Sun shining. Deep breath. Lighter. The weight of deception gone. Fear gone. I took a cab back to Sterling Heights. The doorman, Henry, opened the door. Good afternoon, Mr. Ali, he said, genuinely smiling. I took the private elevator up. Doors opened into the silence of my sanctuary. Poured a glass of vintage wine. Walked onto the balcony. City spread out below. Wind whipped at my tie. I didn't button my jacket. I felt strong. Alive. I pulled Catherine's pocket watch from my pocket. The police had returned it. Polished the silver case. It is done, Catherine, I said to the wind. The house is clean. The wine tasted of oak berries, victory. I watched the sun begin to rise over the lake. 71 years old. Alone. But not lonely. I had my peace. My dignity. And for the first time in a very long time, I was looking forward to tomorrow. A new day. A new life. And this time, I was the one holding the keys. They say family is a sacred bond, one that must survive any betrayal. But I learned the most dangerous intruders are the ones with keys to your front door. Tolerating disrespect isn't love, it's enabling. By finally drawing a hard line in the sand, I didn't just protect my assets. I protected myself. Honestly, seeing my own son choose greed over family, it broke my heart, but it also solidified my resolve. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have been able to cut off your own family for justice? Let me know in the comments below.